These are going to be the first displays of Selene. I'm really excited. I don't expect any of her first kind of plays to be like massive threats. I think her playfulness just causing a bit of trouble for the main cast is still really good. I think it still puts her in a good spot for how little of effort she's probably putting into this so far. But once we get to the point where she's, you know, like, okay, time to, you know, stop messing around with just some random junk. Maybe like the idea of going from random just monsters to like a named mob. It could have the exact same model as these other ones, but are probably slightly different color, but as a name. You know, whenever Selene picks up the pace a little bit from her side of things, because we can tell from her personality that she's shown, from the way that she was talking to Natsu last chapter, and as well as what this new character, you know, goes off about in, you know, at the end of this chapter, that Selene is, you know, she's not fighting. We already know she's not fighting seriously, but it's the mentality behind it that we now have, is she sees this as like a, you know, a game. And it's not like Zareth, where Zareth was kind of finding a loophole to trick his curse by really seeing it all as a game. She just is having fun. Like, this is just amusing to her, which again, I like that we have that about her personality already. I like that we already have an understanding of what she's like. And I think the playfulness goes with the whole like mystical nine-tailed fox dragon that Mishima is going for with this, because that is one thing that is like, you know, associated with, you know, like spiritual fox and stuff. They're tricky, they're mischievous and stuff. And so I like that about Selene. And we like, just everything about this chapter just was a really comfortable startup, like nothing absurd, but we did find out a little bit about just Elentir as a place. But also, like I said, Selene just stepping out, trying to, you know, get her hands into things, getting ready for this whole arc to kind of start, I thought was really cool. And as well as this character at the end, I think is neat, because I'm in general wondering how many people like are going to be under Selene's, I don't want to say legion, but, you know, her kind of just control, her reign. Because we don't know right now if Selene has a rank in Elentir, if she's like actually like fully taken over and subjugated to where she's like a queen, or is she somewhere kind of like adjacent to, you know, whoever's in charge. There's still obviously way more mysteries, because we haven't ran into any like intelligent life yet in Elentir. We know that they obviously have people, and on top of that they have Exceed, which, you know, both species are intelligent, for between humans like Ferris and an Exceed. So we're just at a kind of like a beginning start. Like I didn't really have anything else to really kind of compare it to, but like just we're at the bare beginning. The last chapter we ended up in Elentir, and this chapter is just setting up a couple small fights going like into the first like moments of Elentir. And none of these bad guys look like they're gonna be a big of a threat. I mean, like the first one gets taken down by Lucy. I mean, like, I imagine if they wanted to, they could have just taken on this hand. But while they're kind of like just going over the general kind of situation of things, like Wendy ends up healing Ferris way faster. And like while they're talking, like they're on this cloud, and Ferris says they're essentially like, she calls them islands here. So being able to stand on top of a cloud seems just apparently a standard thing that goes on in Elentir. Okay, cool already. I mean, we got some really cool just like world display. I thought was really good. But while they're talking, I also really appreciated that Urza brought up that Selene, like everything that Ferris did like against the guild doesn't outweigh of what Selene did to her. Like, she's clearly still got beef, but she says, all right, but first we have to take care of this. This is obviously a bigger priority right now. And even though Ferris, like, she definitely did some maniacal stuff. Like, she said she got swept up in it. Like, she just kind of like started going really strongly with the idea, you know, the white doctor and the white wizard and all that. But still, like, she did some, you know, bad stuff. She definitely like put some people in some very like painful situations, as well as putting people through pain, you know, sucking out their magic and stuff. But at the same time, you can kind of sympathize with the fact, obviously, like she had, you know, her world was being threatened, and she had to do all this to try and get it back and fix it. So I can understand from that point. Obviously, still though, like the Fairy Tale Guild members need to kind of keep an eye on her and being like, okay, you need to be on a short leash. We need to make sure you're not trying anything crazy. And I've mentioned many times in many other parts, like, you know, reviewing the series for Elentir's Quest, is that I really wanted, well, what was called the White Witch, but now Ferris. I was like, man, I really want her to be in the main cast for like the next arc or something, to where you could have like an antagonist kind of like pair up to fight a bigger antagonist. I mean, Ferris is still really interesting. She doesn't have that evil kind of sinister side to her anymore. Like, she seems to kind of like shaking that off, which again I'm fine with, you know, keeping her you know, relevant, keeping the story kind of moving. But at the same time, her switching into kind of like being more good, I like that Ursa hasn't brushed over like, oh, you're good now, so you're fine. It's like, no, you still did something to the guild. So even if she never like decides just to attack Ferris and like get revenge in combat or try and get like justice for that, the fact she acknowledges it, because I imagine by the end of this, like, they'll be friends, they'll be close to, you know, to Ferris, and they'll have gone through a bunch of stuff that like they can kind of maybe not forgive her, but get enough, like a good enough of a standing to where they'll try and talk it over and maybe either find some kind of like more apologetic resolve rather than like having to fight Ferris, because that would be a very strange way to end like interactions with her. But like the hand coming out again, similar like the clouds, I liked a lot that Ferris is like kind of like acted like it was normal, because to Ferris Toka this is a normal thing. Also Gray, when they were like on the clouds saying how like it's kind of like a vehicle, and Natsu getting like kind of sick thinking about it, it's really interesting about that, because the Slayers, like the Dragon Slayers, only show like their motion sickness on specifically like vehicles and machines and stuff, anything kind of like man constructed that doesn't move naturally, because stuff like clouds and animals he's able to ride on just fine. He doesn't really have that issue. It's just a small little thing to note. I like that Mishima took, you know, has been consistent with, like, he didn't have him on this cloud like, well, the cloud's moving, not to get sick. It's like, oh, him thinking about like vehicles and stuff kind of gets him in a moment for a second. And it would have made sense like if Mishima wanted to fully come out with it, and it wouldn't have been a bad thing, because though he has been consistent with showing that naturally moving things doesn't cause him the motion sickness, it's never been fully stated. And like getting a full confirmation, similar to like what we still need on like dual type modes, I'm hoping that he, even if he's again very consistent with showing how these work, gives us an actual explanation how they work. Either way, maybe eventually. But this hand comes up, you know, they go to attack it. I like when Irene comes back for a moment, saying how like that, like the magic of Elentir really kind of just, you know, reinvigorate her momentarily, kind of woke her back up. And she talks about it being the magic around them. And Wendy saying how like she thought like the recovery for Ferris was a little bit too fast. I've seen people talk about like maybe it was because of Irene. I don't think so. I think it was just because of Wendy being in Elentir. Obviously her healing would be way stronger. So I don't know. I think it makes more sense, because it would be kind of weird to have the whole fact that they're all going to get stronger and Nautilus be a factor, but like Irene do it. It's not a huge deal, but I don't know. I think it'd be kind of strange. I am really interested to see like some of the general gaps that they get with their magic, because we did see a little bit, obviously, Wendy healing faster. Lucy not needing her keys to summon her spirits again was really big. That was a really interesting thing, because some of her spirits have been able to summon themselves, but like we've had Loki who's been able to, you know, come in, bring her keys, because he knows how to, you know, go back and forth between the human world and the celestial spirit world and stuff. But not having her keys around at all and summoning Taurus without intending to is really good. That's really good. So Lucy's eventually able to develop like this ability, because I assume that showing their abilities in Elentir, I don't think it's just going to be like you get a bonus ability in Elentir and that's it. I'm guessing it's going to be like Mishima has them kind of gain like maybe like a new trait or new skill each, and then throughout the arc they'll learn it, and then by the time they come back they'll have mastered it enough that they'll still be able to do like said skill, or maybe they'll just be better at magic in general and they'll be able to just kind of use it, kind of thing. I don't know. I don't want him to introduce stuff that doesn't carry over. Like if they learn something or gain some new kind of skill, I don't want it to stop like being a thing. It's kind of like how Natsu and Wendy got the magic tools and Edalus way back originally in it. I'm not going to count stuff like Beta Heaven because I do think that's going to come back. I don't know why Mishima wouldn't bring something like that back. It'd be very strange. But having everything kind of going on with, you know, their new abilities and stuff and the ideas behind them is really cool. But if they go the ways of something like the magic tools and Edalus, where it's like they use them twice and they never use them again, it would be kind of a shame. I don't want that to happen. Like, I don't think that they'll have to learn a brand new magic, but each getting like a skill. Because Lucy, the thing about Lucy's ability that makes it really useful, like, imagine she's able to do this normally. Like, would this mean that anytime somebody attacks her, even if she's asleep or even if she's like not looking or she's preoccupied with another fight, could her spirits just summon themselves to help her? Because if they can sense danger and she doesn't need her keys, eventually she could just you know, pop them like nothing. And that is something that actually I think people have theorized for a while, is like eventually Lucy would just be like a spatial wizard and she wouldn't need the keys, she just know how to do the magic. Like in my mind it'd be like the keys are a conduit, but she's able to kind of figure out how to just replicate the magic of the keys to where she's able just to do it. Would be really cool too, like if that's like a higher level skill she can do, because then at the end of it I imagine, like, wouldn't she be able to summon the Celestial Spirit King if she, you know, she could do, you know, make summons across the planes into this dimension without needing keys? I would assume that she could do something like that for the Celestial Spirit King. I don't know. It's a very good question, just because with hers we've seen it. Wendy's we only got a little bit of healing. We haven't obviously seen Natsu and Gray. I'm sure like their abilities as well are going to be very, you know, big extra. But Irene telling her to be on her guard I thought was really cool to Wendy, and also Wendy not like saying anything to Urza, kind of like being a little nervous about keeping it, I thought was really good too. Because even if it's Urza's mom, Celine, like I keep almost saying Celine, I understand why Mishima went with Celine, but being close to Irene and then the both of them, if they weren't in the same arc, I don't think this would be as much of a problem just saying and mixing up. But because they're in the same arc, I think it can just, I'm gonna be saying their names a lot within the same couple sentences, so I would imagine that I'm probably gonna slip up on that a couple times very regularly, but eventually it should be good. Either way, any of them showing an upgrade I think will just be really good in general. Like, will Wendy be able to have like new enchants? And then Irene, actually, getting back to Irene, Irene, the character at the end of it, people point out that's like a hairstyle that she had in, I think, the Dice Magic game, and there was like a very Japanese style Irene. So I wonder if, like, what people are thinking, that Irene is gonna somehow take this girl's body, or maybe one of these people that work for Celine. It could work. I think it could definitely work, and Irene being around would be very beneficial. Oh yeah, when I was saying Irene and Urza, it's like, yeah, they're mother and daughter, but it's not like they have a ton in common. And I would rather see it go through Wendy, because I like that you have a very small dragon slayer being taught by like the personality of the original dragon slayer, high enchantress, master enchantress when she's a dragon. Just somebody who is like Wendy's mentor, I think is really cool. I like that Wendy has this kind of personal trainer almost, and even if it's not like any way going to connect to Urza, even if it does later, either way, I do really like what it does for Wendy, because Wendy is actually the one that didn't really have much of her own personal plot going for her in this arc. Like, Urza had stuff with Jalal, Natsu had stuff with Ignia, and he's got the 100 Years quest that he really wants to do. Gray had stuff with Juvia. Wendy didn't have anything, but now Wendy is like learning all these new enchants and stuff from Irene. I think is really cool just in general. But yeah, so the hand does attack them, because Ferris says how they don't regularly like attack people. That's just something to know. But we see like these markings going on. I'm guessing that's Celine, because when I first looked at the chapter, I thought Celine summoned it, but then I was reading it and it's like, oh, apparently these are just normal, like in Elentir. But we see these markings on it, and then after saying, oh, it doesn't attack people, we can get these odd markings on it, and then it goes to attack them. So I'm guessing that's Celine. I feel like anyone can guess that's Celine. The only way it's not Celine is if it's this Yoko character, or like anybody that's one of Celine's henchmen that's prepping up to go, like, you know, go against her, go against the main cast and stuff. I'm very curious to know how many there are as well, and I don't expect them all to be like super impressive. Like, I'm betting a bunch of them are gonna be like strong but still very beatable for the main cast, and then maybe we'll get like a couple that are like pretty powerful they have to deal with. I would like at least one of Selene's henchmen to be a very powerful opponent, like somebody that would take Urza like an all-out match to defeat. Like, I'm just expecting something like that where we have like just a very big powerful minion, because God Serena, or not God Serena, the God Seeds of Alderaan were still pretty powerful, and they all had pretty good hacks, but they're all part of him. They were all part of his body, and like just kind of like weird little creations he's made. And with Mercephobia, he fought by himself. Like, none of his subjects were like powerful or did anything crazy like that. Whereas with Selene, Selene's already got like her people up. She's got her own crew. She's sending people out apparently to go like monitor them. Like, they're like, she's like, oh, well, we're gonna see if you you know, you meet the requirements to be Selene's toy, pretty much. She's like, let's see if you're able to do it right. And I like the design. I like she has this weird kind of cat design to her. Originally I thought snake, but then, you know, looking at the mouth where she has this kind of, you know, that little cat shape, and then the slit eyes also would go with obviously a cat. But even the name, like one of the moonlit beauty gods, I like the name again. I like that Selene, this also says that Selene must really value beauty and just kind of probably, you know, like physical appearance and just all around. I feel like just all around like a level of vanity to her. And again, I like that. I like that we have that about her, and we have some, you know, some pretty good information on exactly what she's like already. Like, even though we aren't getting like, oh, you know, a bunch of spells by her, a bunch of named big lore stuff. We got her dragon form. We got like why she went to Elentir. She brought us to Elentir, and we got some stuff that really shows off her personality. I think it's been really good so far. But I like some of the other characters, like where they ended up. Like, Lucy's is interesting just because I like the potential for Lucy's power growth like that. Because I was thinking more of like star dresses, and then they always and forever brought up like, until it happens, what if she gets the power to summon Celestial Spirit King, which is something everybody wants. Obviously, her on top of that would mean that she gets a Celestial Spirit Queen dress. Everybody wants that. So that is just one of those, like, you know, big plus things you can put on the back. But Gray, Natsu, and Happy being split up and end up in a snow place to where like they notice the snow is actually floating upwards. It's going up instead of flying down. And it was nice when Gray mentions that he can't make snowfall, because that's not Gray's ability. Gray's an ice wizard. Gray would have the potential to do that if he specifically went up and made that, you know, clouds cold enough so they snowed. I guess it would have to be a heavy enough cloud as well. But if he went up to somewhere like it was a rain cloud, it was heavily raining, put enough cold into it, he could, you know, turn it into snow, I would imagine. But not the same as like Eve, where Eve can just, you know, he has snow magic, so he can just make it snow. So I thought that was just really cool. I really liked this, the very strange environmental stuff like that. It gave me, like, this chapter definitely had me this chapter definitely gave me a little bit of Toriko vibes in that regard, which, by the way, read Build King. It looks pretty good. I liked the first chapter. I thought it was pretty enjoyable. But how there's a chapter where it shows just these couple areas, and they all have very, very wildly different environments. Like, there's one, it was like Laser Rain Hill, to where it had something to do with like the way that the water and the air and the clouds like were set up to where lasers would come down, like the light would turn into lasers. So they're like, it was a Honeycomb Hill, I think, actually, and the whole area just looked like a honeycomb because these lasers kept hitting these spots and just kind of, you know, burning into the ground. I thought that was just really cool, though. I like the whole snow falling upwards. I thought that was just a really neat thing that they could have. Like, there's a line from Charlotte when she's talking to them, and like when they're on the clouds, and she says, like, you know, very fairy tale-esque, and obviously it's not a play on the name, because the name is a play on kind of like the original idea of, like, you know, the wording fairy tale, but it has like a level of like very strong fantasy to it. And I think with stuff like the snow falling upwards was also a really strong addition to that. Essentially, like, those weird trees really made me think of Toriko too, like, not gonna lie. But while they're talking again, I really liked Lucy getting like some foreshadowing with some new power of hers. I thought that was really cool, and it it adds a level of just high potential to her character. Because Lucy's star dresses are strong, like, and especially because she's developed the star dress mix and stuff. But like for the most part, her spirits, even if they're strong, because they're already, you know, gold, some of the golden zodiac keys, but they scale off of the summoner. But the thing is, like, Lucy's thing is like variety and brains, and she does have a couple spells otherwise, like, you know, Oranometria stuff. But her spirits, aside from maybe like Loki and whatnot, have never been like, they've never been big fighting contenders. Like hers is more on the variety that she can do with these spirits, rather than if she can just drop one and be really powerful. That's more close to like the Celestial Spirit King, where the Celestial Spirit King would be extremely powerful just from showing up on top of anything else he does. But oh, I had a hiccup right there in my throat. I'm glad I caught that. But at the end of this, we have Urza and Wendy. Oh, just as a note, because Urza and Wendy, like, they're fighting like these weird magic made humanoids, which again is cool. They look pretty spooky, but they're in a town of sorts. That is one thing I really wanted to make sure I didn't forget. They're in some form of town. And one of the aspects about Celine, and then we see in Yoko, is a very Japanese theme. So I'm wondering if Celine brought like that style to Elentir and maybe just kind of enforced it or something, or if it's something that is just way more, you know, we're gonna see way later inside of Elentir, because it's a very weird thing for having a very Japanese style of, you know, to one set of characters and stuff that are in this world. But then when you go to, you know, seeing these houses, they're very weird kind of, you know, fantasy houses where it's just kind of drawn in random ways to make them stand out and stuff. I mean, one of them makes me really think of like what are the Mechian houses in Dragon Ball, like those weird little bubble kind of things that they made. But the magic people I thought was cool. I thought that was pretty neat. They look spooky. I like that they're kind of split up in areas to make them look very abnormal. I thought that was just a neat touch at the end. But the Yoko character, again, I think is really, really interesting. Just based off of, like I've said, that Mishima usually goes very Western when he does stuff. Like, he does have Japanese characters, but he said before he's very much like leans towards like Western stuff. Even said like in a series they speak English, or like their world's equivalent to English kind of thing. It's not called English, but it's essentially the same thing. But when you have like that going on, and then oh yeah, more of similar of Celine stuff, it makes you wonder, is like, again, is Celine the one kind of going for this, or is it somebody else, or is it just a coincidence kind of thing? Maybe Celine's just like the style brought it there, and her minions kind of dress up like her in like a uniform kind of style. Either way though, I'm interested in this character. I really want to know if she's human or not, because I would assume, being part of Celine's group, there's got to be something really abnormal about her. And she does have that weird smoke behind her that's like a very older Japanese style. And we saw that with Celine when she transformed, because I'm fully expecting one of the dragon gods to have other dragons living with them to kind of be like sheltering them or something, or just having a couple in their group. Yoko could be some form, another dragon, maybe just not like a dragon, maybe just like a high level dragon, or it could, you know, she could be some other type of creature, like some form of mystical creature, maybe shape-shifting or something, or just be like kind of like Ferris and be like a very human looking person but with strong magic. Either way, I do hope this character puts up a good fight. I will say that I don't want a character to, you know, I don't want anyone really of name, anyone that seems like they should have value, to like walk up and lose. I've never liked that. Like, if they do lose, that's one thing, but I don't want them to get foddered. Like, that's one of the things I kind of went over a little bit in Eden Zero with this recent chapters. It's like, these characters, even if the main cast are kind of having to put like pretty much do everything they currently have in their arsenal to beat these guys, it's still very early, so like these guys shouldn't have been super powerful, super big things to deal with. So I thought it made sense. Like, right now, the enemies, like, for the most part, like, look at the monster that Lucy went up against. Tauros, like, again, Tauros is not very powerful, especially compared to like modern day characters, like current level characters, but Tauros was able to completely destroy it. And then you have, you know, Wendy and Urza are, it's like these weird magic people. They don't look like they're powerful. Maybe they are. They're more creepy, but I'm sure that they'll figure something out just fine. But, in general, I think that these guys aren't going to be too big of a deal. I'm hoping, though, that this Yoko person is somebody more formidable. Because not only is she a named character, but she's associated with a title, unless there is a title in Celine's group beyond this or something. I don't know. Either way, they'll comment below. Like, I thought this was a pretty good setup chapter, as well as just world building. I thought that was really nice. Obviously a new character. Actually, on top of that, we're getting Suzaku showing up soon, so that's gonna be another Japanese style character like showing up. I'm really curious if Mishima is gonna somehow connect him to like any of like this Japanese style world, or if it'll at least be commented on of like him dressing up like some of these other characters. If Yoko's a dragon though, like she better be careful of Scoleon, Mad Mold, Suzaku, Kiria, like all of them coming in. I assume it's just the 4 of them, but maybe more. Either way though, I thought it was pretty good. I like this as a good setup chapter. It had even has a little split up, you know, you're gonna get the characters having their first kind of like battle groups, and then going like kind of probably it'll start to steady out and just kind of just getting lore, maybe find out like the plan is, like what they're gonna do, and like all the steps that proceed from there. But other than that, they'll comment below, thumbs up the video from the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Other than that, I appreciate everybody's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.